This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, February the 14th, Valentine's Day, is an NHL icon who was a star for the Minnesota Wild among other teams and was one of the first stars for that team that came through expansion in 2000. In fact, he was the first ever draft pick by Minnesota Wild. But now he's 42 years old. He is a Slovakian icon. His name is Marian Gaborik. So Marian Gaborik was born Valentine's Day 1982 in Slovakia. Well, it was called Czechoslovakia at the time. So anyway, he would play for a junior team in his home country, Dukla Trenčín, and looked pretty good, going from the junior team to the senior team and improved himself. So he was draft eligible for the 2000 draft, in which he would face stiff competition to be the number one pick, but he wasn't the number one overall pick. That was Rick DiPietro going to the Islanders. Atlanta went with Danny Heatley. And then with the number 3 pick, Minnesota, their first ever draft pick, said, hey, let's take this Marian Gaborik guy. So he did. So they did. In fact, Gaborik was making the team out of his rookie campaign. Like, he made the team easily. And not only that, he scored Minnesota's first ever goal. He would pick up 18 goals for the expansion Wild and elevated himself the second season, putting up 30 goals plus and got his output to 67 points. So he looked pretty good and all that. In 2003, he won the All-Star Game's fastest skater competition and put up another 30-goal season, helping Minnesota make the playoffs and shock Colorado in round 1 before shocking Vancouver in round 2, coming back from 3-1 down in both series, and then losing to the Anaheim Ducks in the conference final. He would put up 17 points in that playoff run. There were some contract issues and all that. Gaborik would agree to a 3-year deal in 2003. Well, October 2003, so he had to wait a little bit. Anyway, he would play 65 games and only get 40 points. Gaborik would go back to his home country during the 2005 lockout, and then when the NHL resumed in 2006, he did fine. He had a point per game, but he had a groin injury. The following season, he re-injured his groin and had to miss 2.5 months. He put up a 30-goal season despite missing 34 games. And then December 2007, he went supernova. He played against the New York Rangers at home and put up 5 goals and an assist, making him the first Minnesota Wild to get 5 goals in a game and the first since Sergei Fedorov in 1996. No surprise he was chosen to another All-Star game as a member of the Minnesota Wild and put up 42 goals and 83 points that year. And then he became team captain for a little bit. Gaborik turned down a 10-year, $80 million deal before the 2008-09 season, which was like weird and all that. He unfortunately would have both a lower body injury and a hip surgery to deal with, and only put up 23 points in 17 games. Gaborik was unable to sign a contract with Minnesota, and he was the last player to be an original Minnesota Wild to play for the franchise. He was the club leader in goals, assists, and points, well, at the time, before Mika Koivu broke those marks. So, rumors were circulating that Vancouver was going to get Marian Gaborik. But on the first day of free agency, he went to the Rangers for a 5-year, $37 million contract. And he put up 10 goals in 12 games as a New York Ranger. His first 12 games as a New York Ranger. So he looked good. Unfortunately, he would have a knee injury and would injure his right leg too. He put up 76 games, scoring 42 goals and putting up 86 points, which looked good. Rangers, of course, lost the chance to be in the postseason on the final day of the season. In his second season, he was hampered with an injury. He got hit into the boards in a game against the Leafs, missing about a month. And pretty much due to lingering effects, he would put up 22 goals in 62 games. He got revenge on the Leafs in 2011 by scoring 4 goals against them in a 7-0 game. So, anyway, in 2012, in his third season with the Rangers, he was named to the All-Star game and was named MVP of the All-Star game as well, which was pretty good. And then in Game 3 of the conference semis with the Capitals, he put up a triple overtime goal, giving the Rangers the lead in the series and ending one of the longest games. Not the longest game in Ranger history, postseason history, but, you know. Gaborik had a lot of problems scoring in the 2013 season. And then, well, with the shortened 2013 season, the Rangers decided to trade him after him struggling with 9 goals in 35 games, trade him to Columbus for Derek Brassard, Derek Dorsett, John Moore, former Kitchen Ranger, and a 6th-round draft pick. Gaborik made an impact, putting up a few key points against Nashville in his first game. Unfortunately, injuries would hurt him in Columbus. And then at the 2014 trade deadline, he was dealt to Los Angeles for Matt Fradden and a 2nd-round pick. It paid dividends because Gaborik would be a high-end goal scorer, and he led the NHL playoffs in goals to boot with 14. And the Kings won their second cup in 3 years over his former club, the Rangers. So that was not really the best move for the Rangers, that Gaborik bit them in the butt. Gaborik was a pending free agent. However, he decided to stay with the Kings for a 7-year, $34 million contract, which was pretty good. And he put up 27 goals in 69 games. Injuries would take its toll on him. But despite all that, in December 2017, he played in his 1,000th career NHL game. But then, shockingly enough, February 2018, Gaborik was traded to Ottawa for Dion Phaneuf. Gaborik would have to go through surgery to repair a herniated disc in his back, April 2018. He was placed on the injury reserve list, but he didn't play the following 3 seasons. He was still technically an NHL player. Gaborik's rights were traded from Ottawa to Tampa for Braden Coburn and a 2nd-round pick, so that Tampa could be salary cap compliant for the 21 season. So it took till November 2021 for Gaborik to finally say enough was enough and he would retire from the NHL. Gaborik used his success to benefit player development in Slovakian hockey, and he did quite well. So with Minnesota, New York, Columbus, LA, and Ottawa, he would put up 407 goals, 815 points in 1,035 regular season games, with 32 playoff goals in 84 games. So Gaborik was a shining star for Minnesota when they needed it because they were an expansion team, and then the New York Rangers, and then, you know, with the LA Kings getting a Stanley Cup in the process. So that looks good. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Dominadu.